All right, hundreds of top military leaders leaving their posts since President Obama took office. Why, I ask, and who is filling that void? Joining us right now is the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America, Pete Hegseth. Captain, no longer, you're still active, right, in the reserves?
In the reserves, yep.
So do you sense there's a different, is it beyond attrition when we talk about these leaders retiring?
I think it is. You know, you've seen 5 years under this commander-in-chief. He's got a different perspective on a lot of things affecting the military. There's been an emphasis on sort of social egalitarianism versus military readiness. So if you're looking at gays in the military, you're looking at women in combat, even the way we frame radical Islam and talking about that with what happened at Fort Hood, he's got a perspective about what this military should look like and how it should be used. And over 5 years, you're going to see the warfighter, independent-minded types slowly sifted out, and instead how might you put it, a little bit more your house cats that are willing to go along with this agenda that isn't necessarily in keeping usually with the way military does.
Well, where's the agenda coming from? Is it from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, or is it inside the Pentagon?
Oh, I think so. I mean, you look at how quickly they moved on things like women in combat, how quickly they moved on repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, how quickly they stripped out the phrases radical Islam from the articulation of the threats that we face. That is a top-down perspective,
sure,
about a way they want to change this military. This commander-in-chief doesn't have any military background, isn't very familiar with it, doesn't have close relationships with most of his top generals, and you see that in the relationship. So there's orders, this is how we're going to do it. If you've got folks inside the Pentagon who don't like it, I think over time they've been asked to take a seat.
Oh. Let me ask you this, and maybe this is just too common of a question, but if it seems as though there's a softening then of military leadership intentionally being placed, what does that do to our national security? I mean, it seems as though it can only weaken it.
It can only weaken it. It also, what does it do about morale? I know every time I was serving, if you're serving under a McChrystal or a Petraeus or a John Allen, somebody who knows a hard charger who's going to take out the enemy and take no BS, that's motivating. You want to follow that guy. Mad Dog Mattis, exactly, Marine Corps General. Those are guys you want to run through a brick wall for. But when you know you've got a general or somebody who's a little bit more politically minded, going to couch a statement, does he have my back? That hurts morale.
And you know what hurts morale, too, after talking to guys like you, is the rules of engagement. And it's up to the commanders, the generals, to get in there and get their hands dirty, their hands in the ground, and go, Mr. President, you know, Joint Chiefs of Staff, it's not going to be effective. Our getting killed down the field because they're not allowed to kill the bad guy.
It trickles all the way down. I had a colonel in Iraq in 2005, 2006. Didn't agree with everything he did, but you know what I knew? He would have my back at the end of the day. If we pulled that trigger because we thought there was a threat or something going on, no questions asked, hey, Lieutenant, I have your back, because you don't always know that in other contexts, especially in the complexity of Afghanistan. And as we draw back, it's getting more and more political and more difficult.
And the direction is coming from the top.
It's coming from the top.
Captain Pete Hegseth, thank you very much for joining us on this Friday.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
All right, 10 minutes now before the top of the hour. Next